I will call this public hearing of the Madison Elementary School District order. Ms. Humphries, can we please call the roll?
President Gresham.
Here.
Vice President Thompson.
Present.
Holcomb.
Here.
Member Spear.
Present.
Member Kazi.
Here.
All are present.
Thank you. We'll go to item 1.3, the public hearing on the proposed budget. Dr. Guerin?
President Gresham, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Superintendent Lori Garvey.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Guerin, and cabinet. Tonight's presentation is the proposed budget. Just to let everybody know, the proposed budget was approved by the governing board in the last meeting, and then it has now been posted at ADE's website with a link from our webpage so that the public could access it. And now this is our public hearing in which I will be presenting the budget, and later in the meeting asking for action item by the governing board to approve it. Since the legislature is still in session and the budget has not passed, the Auditor General issued preliminary forms using the same formula amounts as were used in the current year that we are in. The final forms will be issued hopefully sometime by July after the legislature ends their session and the budget is passed. And then we will have, if necessary, until September 15th to revise our budget to that to the new amounts. The legislature did pass some legislation that is reflected in our budget, and that was the qualifying tax rate for the year, which is the tax rate that all property owners would pay, and then the classroom site fund weighted per pupil allocation amount was passed back in March. Per statute, the JLBC recommends the amount and sets it as of March 31st. The governing board approved these salary commitments back in April. Salary and benefit, a 2% salary increase for all staff, and then increased the district health savings account contribution by $100. Those two things totaled $713,000. And then should any additional funding become available, because when those were passed, of course, we don't, legislature still being in session, we don't have that. Additional recommendations were made, and that would be to increase salaries, add a longevity stipend for employees who have been with the district 3 to 4 years, and additional staff to support the refugee students up to 2.0 FTEs. Now, it is important to note that the $713,000 was not just given as a number out there. We do believe that when the legislature does end their session, because of existing state statute, that school districts would receive the lower of 2% or inflation. We do believe that we will see at least the 2% on our formula amount, and that funds those two items. The budget limit for maintenance and operations. So our daily operations budget of the year, $47,174,496. Our unrestricted capital fund is at $15,100,509. And then federal projects other than impact aid are at almost $4.9 million for a total aggregate school district budget limit of $67,170,005. As I previously mentioned, the classroom site fund did see an increase in the formula amount that's already been set. It went up $34 per weighted student count. That total increase when applied to the formula is $208,695. Part of that increase, we had anticipated that there would be a slight increase in the amount. I believe that we originally estimated $20, but part of that increase, $122,800, is being used to offset the cost of the 2% salary increase. The total budget limit for classroom site fund, which does go into teacher base salary and pay for performance for certified staff, is $9,313,343. We look at our major federal and state grants. We have Title I at $725,000, Title II, which is for professional development, at $280,000. Then we have our IDEA Part B, additional funding that the district receives for special education, $1,750,000. And then the safety grant is a state grant that funds counselors and a social worker, one counselor or social worker at each of our schools for $750,000. The average teacher salary is on the cover of the budget. The average salary for all teachers employed for this next school year that we're talking about, $63,194. That is a 2% increase over what it is this year based on the salary increase that was approved by the governing board. And that will be posted on our website and displayed if anybody has information. And I think it's important to note, and was brought up at the proposed budget, Madison does receive some additional funding because our teachers are a little bit more veteran than the average in the state. So Madison's average teacher experience is really almost right at 10 years. So that's to be commendable. That is commendable. In addition to the budget forms, there was an addition this year for a fund balance page, much like when we did the annual financial report. Again, the reason behind this is to present more information and the planned use of our fund balances. It increases the transparency and really helps decision makers and our voters and stakeholders get a more complete picture of our financial picture if they didn't want to look at our annual comprehensive finance report, which is multiple pages long, but it's really just giving our community a more broader view into our finances. So it's good information. And this is just one snapshot. The page, it's legal paper. It goes on because it does break it up. According to the government accounting standards boards, they issue generally accepted accounting principles, and our funds get grouped according to governmental types. So we have general funds, we have capital funds, we have special revenue funds. So each one of those sets of funds will have its own section, like this one. This is the general fund, and again, this is our largest one because it is our maintenance and operations and our indirect funds. So this is actually the largest one. So I just put it here so that you could see it. And it gives you information on what was the ending fund balance the year before. Now, fund balance, for anybody that might not, it's just it's accounting speak for how much cash do you have on hand? What's your cash balance? So it starts with your ending cash balance and it adds the revenues that you had throughout the year and what you project. And at this point, since we haven't finalized the year, it's projected. But what do you project your revenues to be for the year and your expenditures? And it's a nice little formula that ends up with what do you think your ending cash balance will be for this year? And then is any of that restricted? Have you assigned any of it? Have you said it goes to certain items that you'd like to purchase? You can see on here how much our assigned is. We do have, it's about 1.4 million. We do here in our financial planning come up with an amount that we like to set aside as contingency or rainy day fund. So that's reflected. So we don't, and when the governing board is making their decisions about approving increases to the budget, that's always looked at to make sure that we're financially sound into the future and we can sustain whatever is being given. So if somebody was to look at that, they could see, oh, this amount is set aside, which is really a positive thing. And that's the kind of information that this gives that you might not, that we did not see in the prior budget forms. And that's it. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Garvey. It's always interesting to create a budget when you don't know what your funding is going to be. But, any questions or comments on the proposed budget? Okay, thank you. And I will take a motion to adjourn the, first, actually, Ms. Humphries, I wanted to ask if we have any public comments on the public hearing.
We have no public comments.
Thank you. Okay, and I'll take a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Causey, seconded by Ms. Thompson. Please vote. Oh, we don't have to vote.
You just get to adjourn.
Just kidding, I'm adjourning. Now you tell me. Okay. And now I will once again call a meeting to order, the regular meeting of the Madison Elementary School District Governing Board. And if we have no changes to the agenda, I will take a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Holcomb, seconded by Ms. Thompson. Please vote on this item. And the agenda has been adopted. We will go on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Brayling, would you like to lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we had our executive session earlier, so I don't think we have a need for another one. Anyone? Okay, and so we'll move on to 4.1, our superintendent's report. Dr. Guerin.
Thank you to staff members and guests who presented at our study session today and for leading our school integrated Madison action teams this past year. A special thanks to Barb Marshall and Jason Piantowski and team for leading us in a strategic planning implementation process. The work will ensure broad stakeholder engagement in our strategic planning with many voices and ideas at the table to assure we achieve our goals and abide by our commitments. It is hard to believe this is the last board meeting of the 23-24 school year. Thank you to our governing board members for their tireless dedication to our students, staff, and community. Thanks to the cabinet members. I'm so grateful for your talented, hard work and expertise. A special thanks to Katie Clark for serving as our principal representative on cabinet. Her thoughtful leadership and input had a positive impact on our decision making and our problem solving, and she will definitely be missed. A special thanks to all the staff who supported our students this year. You are simply incredible educators and make an impact on students' lives each and every day. I hope everyone's summer is filled with enjoying family and friends, balanced with some adventure and restful relaxation. May you get out of the heat and enjoy your time with family and friends and have time to do what brings you joy. Have a great summer.
Thank you. Start with Ms. Causey for our board member reports.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone who was involved in the strategic planning update that we received a mere 4 hours ago. It was very insightful, really well. Just the amount of work that was put into each of the presentations and the work that informed those presentations was quite impressive. I have to say, for a year, I was kind of blown away. And what I really loved was seeing the leadership of faces that I haven't always seen before, and putting responsibilities and titles to faces and people. That was something I have not experienced before sitting on this board. I have to be honest. And so that, more than anything, is what I think walking away from that session was most impressive and meaningful for me. Not just the incredible work that has already been done and will be done moving forward. Also want to just share that the Madison Education Foundation had a retreat. It was well attended. There was good work that was undertaken, a lot to celebrate, but a lot of work moving forward. And what I think is most exciting for the board is that it is in a position to have so many of the right people in place to do some incredible work moving forward. We just have a new marketing person that was just added to the board, and a potential funding source for that marketing. And so there's just so much good stuff happening at the foundation. So stay tuned and please attend the events as you hear about them coming up in the new year. And finally, I, for the first time, attended the Arizona School Board Association Summer Leadership Institute up in Flagstaff. Was pleasantly surprised that there was a few really good pieces of information that I've shared a little bit with Dr. Guerin that I received, as well as some additional pieces of information from other districts that I will be sharing with everybody if it's something that we've talked about in the past. But I was a good use of my time, and frankly, it was a lot cooler, so I love that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kazi, and thank you for going to that. I have a question for you as well. Are we still in need of Education Foundation board members? Are we recruiting?
So I would have a conversation with the executive director, Molly Dodd. We did an assessment to identify specific skill sets that we were looking for. And I know we have few areas where we would love to have new board members, but Molly is in the best position to inform you on what those would be.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll move on to Mr. Holcomb.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to echo the thanks for great presentations at the board study session. The thing that struck out to me is the focus on our strategic plan. Our strategic plan continues to be a living document that we actually adopt into every day at Madison, and that's very important. And its focus on creating a appropriate culture to advance our students, our community, and staff, I think, is being reflected very well, and I very much appreciate that. I just want to thank everybody. This is the last meeting of this school year. From my standpoint, it's been a great school year. People put in a lot of hard work. We got a lot of good done. I hope everybody in Madison, the families, the staff, teachers, everybody, take some time to recharge over the summer and come back and make it even a better year. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Thompson.
Thank you. I want to echo the statements made by my fellow board members about the fantastic presentations we got this afternoon. I think one of the things that, in addition to what's already been pointed out, that stood out was just seeing the interconnectedness of our strategic plan and how really each and every one of the areas that have been identified really are influential on all the others. And to see that each of the areas are student focused and staff focused in support of our community was very impressive. So thank you to everyone who put the effort into putting those presentations forward and who put the effort in executing that strategic plan every day. That's all I have.
Thank you. Yeah, I will just repeat what my other board members have said. And again, thank you to everyone that's worked so hard on those teams. And it's an additional to all their other regular duties. So yeah, it's definitely extra work for them. So we appreciate it. And just for those of you that did not happen to be at our study session, the topics were equitable, inclusive, and safe environments, family and community partnerships, multi-tiered systems of support, and workplace culture and wellness. So some very good topics. Okay.
Would you like to call on Ms. Spear?
Oh, thank you for reminding me. Ms. Spear, do you have anything to report?
I don't have anything to report except my regrets for not having been able to attend the study session today.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
We will move on to our consent agenda. Do I have any changes to our consent agenda? Seeing none, I will take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Thompson, seconded by Ms. Kazi. Please vote. Everybody voted? Okay, there we go. That passes unanimously. Okay, 6.1. Ms. Humphries, do we have any calls to the public?
We have no calls to public.
Thank you. And we'll go on to 7.1 through 7.6. We have some second reads for board policy. Dr. Guerin?
President Gresham, members of the board, cabinet, and guests. These policies are the last round of this batch of policies, and I will turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Barb Marshall.
Thank you, President Gresham, members of the board, members of cabinet. These are being brought forward for second read. There are no changes from the first read. However, as you'll recall during the first read, there was a discussion on the bullying, harassment, intimidation policy, which is JICK. Our proposal was to update our Madison definition in current policy to align with what the Arizona Department of Education is using, which is the definition from the CDC. What came out of that discussion is that that definition includes the phrase who are not siblings or current dating partners. And as we discussed, that was even a point of conversation with the committee because there was some angst about having the dating partners not be included in that definition. So based on the feedback that you provided during that first read, I went back to the committee and also with our legal counsel. And you'll see later on in the board items that we are bringing forward the discipline matrix. The federal government for the Title IX guidelines, they have made changes to Title IX. They are now calling it sex-based harassment. And it does include definitions for a hostile environment harassment that would encompass the dating partners as well as dating violence that would be included there. So the committee still felt that we should align to what the Arizona Department of Education had on the chance that we were challenged for any disciplinary action that we provide to students under bullying. So we still bring that forward with that same definition, knowing that the concern about the dating partners will be addressed through Title IX.
All right. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Holcomb.
Yes, I have a question on that. That's under Title IX, but our policy is now broad enough to allow us to treat that the sexual violence or deal with that under our policy and our disciplinary matrix.
In the past, Member Holcomb and board members, we had addressed that under harassment in general, and now specifically for the dating partners, it can also be addressed as a Title IX complaint under a new guidance that they're going to provide. Our legal counsel is also working with ASBA because that is a policy that we're going to need to update as well. We do have the sexual harassment policy that's in place, and that will need to be updated. These new guidelines go into effect August 1st, so right before our new school year starts, and that's why we thought let's go ahead and change them now for the new year because we have that guidance.
All right. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we could address that if necessary.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Marshall?
President Gresham, we have a board docs error on this, so I'm asking for a voice vote.
Okay.
And I will fix board docs behind the scenes, please.
Thank you. And are we voting for these all at once?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
And did you have anything else, Ms. Marshall, for these?
No, there were no changes to any of these policies listed, item 7.1 to 7.6, no changes from the first read. So these are catching up with current legislation or current Madison practice.
Okay, thank you. If we are ready to vote, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Ms. Causey, seconded by Ms. Thompson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. And none opposed. Okay, and that passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to section 8.1, a discipline matrix. Dr. Guerin.
Thank you, President Gresham, and I just want to Ms. Marshall, your detailed work on all these policies is truly appreciated. And we get to turn it right back over to you for our annual discipline matrix.
Thank you, President Gresham, members of the board, and members of cabinet. You usually find that we bring the discipline matrix through the consent agenda, especially because there are usually minor changes, which we have this year as well. However, because the policy changed that definition for bullying, which impacted the discipline matrix, we didn't want you approving the discipline matrix change of language prior to having that policy language approved. So we bring this forward as an action item. Again, very minor details to it. What the committee did put in place was the introductory portion, which they felt would be very helpful to parents. There is a parent that was on the committee, and so just based on feedback from throughout the year when site administrators have had to call regarding discipline issues, these are some things we thought we could front load to help address that with parents. And then you'll find the violation updates for the bullying, harassment, and the sex-based harassment that we just spoke about in the previous item. Additionally, we have had bus rules in the handbook and the bus guidelines, but through our transportation department, they requested that it also be added to the discipline matrix. And so that is a change that we're seeing. And then the other change to the definition under the vandalism definition, in alignment with state statute, they broke it into those same subcategories that you would find in state statute. Again, just to make it cleaner and easier for the students and the families to understand. The interventions and responses, as we did a thorough look at this with our new SEAL coordinator, we saw that we had detention listed, then it was on-campus detention or in-school detention. We just had different phrases for the same thing. So we cleaned up that language so that it was consistent throughout. And the other change that we saw, if any area of discipline that would allow for a long-term suspension, by law, we have to provide the families with a 5-day notice for a hearing. So we need all of those 9 days in a suspension. And we found that there was inconsistency in the allowability. Some of them were 3-day suspension, some were a 5-day. So anywhere where you see that a long-term suspension is allowability, we increase the out-of-school suspension time to that maximum 9 days to allow for that planning time for a discipline hearing. Other than that, other than the format, they cleaned up. It used to be on an Excel document with cells, and they have found that just doing it as a Word document in a table just makes it more clean for readability. So those are the changes that we are proposing through the committee work for the discipline matrix moving forward with the 24-25 school year.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall. Any questions or comments on the discipline matrix from our board? Seeing none, is this, oh, go ahead, Ms. Causey.
I just was curious if you can remind me, I know this is something that's in, that parents have in the handbook, but is there a time during registration where they have to like acknowledge that they've seen it? Can someone just give me some guidance as to how parents interact with this or are made aware of it?
Yes, thank you, Member Kazi and governing board members. This is part of the registration. So there are various forms. For example, the having the students the allowability for the photographs or the videos and things like that. So through that registration and enrollment process, the handbook is included. Additionally, during that first week of school, the teachers go over, not page by page, but certainly highlighting portions of the handbook, and the principals do the same with their teaching staff to update them on the areas and the sections that are available in the handbook.
Good question. And that's done, the parent sign off is done through Power School, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Okay, and is this another voice vote or do we have board docs? On board doc, are we voting by voice or by, okay, on board docs. Thank you. So I will, any other questions or comments? I will take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Holcomb. Please vote. And that motion passes. We'll go on to 8.2. Audit reports. Dr. Guerin, please introduce.
President Gresham, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, I'd like to introduce 8.2 and turn it over to Harvey, audit reports and compliance questionnaire, and thank her for her work on this.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Guerin, and cabinet. As Dr. Guerin said, this will be a report on our financial audit for the year ended June 30th, 2023. So it's always a lag for your audit as they continue to do, and the work for the audit is actually done over several months. But Clifton Larson Allen was hired as our independent auditor, and they audit all of the accounting and financial reporting of Madison. So they start their audit based off of the USFR, which is the Uniform System of Financial Reporting. It's a financial and accounting manual put out by the Arizona Auditor General's office, and it's very broad. So it's anything that could impact funding or money of the district. And then in addition, how we are recording those things. The first item that I would like to go over is the USFR compliance questionnaire. It is a document that is, and they're all attached, as I'm sure you know, but it is a document that's over 120 pages just of have you followed procedures. And they, I can assure you, they went over all of our transactions with a comb, and we ended up having findings. We ended up with 5 findings in different areas. So we had one procurement finding. If we have procurement thresholds that we must abide by as school districts, and once you spend cumulatively with one vendor $100,000 or more, you need to have a bid or an RFP. We did not anticipate as much in purchases with one vendor as happened, and we went over that $100,000 by $8,000. So that ended. Of course, we had a finding for that. We had another finding to do with the cash clearing account. We get, as parents make payments in for things or people given tax credits and it comes into our account through an electronic payment, we are to move those monies to the county treasurer within a month, and that didn't happen on a few times. Another one in that whole cash clearing, is that our electronic fund transfers, those are electronic payments to the vendors. We're going through this clearing account, and best practice would be to move them out and set up a different clearing account just for those. And the governing board did approve the establishment of that account back in May. So we are moving forward with that. They also look at student activities because we do want to safeguard the monies that our student clubs are raising. So we did have a couple deposits that were not made timely. Anytime we receive money in, you must deposit that money within a week. And this happens mostly or mainly during the winter holiday when monies come in and they're dated. And by the time we return, especially, it's into January, you open all the mail, you get them deposited. It can be past that time. Student absences is another area. We had just 1 of 15 absences that was not reported or calculated correctly. So anytime a student is signed in or out, we have to calculate, was that a half day or not? We do half day attendance, and that wasn't properly reported, so that was a smaller one. And then transportation, they even go and they audit there. They look at to make sure that your route miles were calculated correctly, and they came up with that we overstated miles by 398. So it was very minor, but they were overstated, and it was due to just a transposition of a couple numbers, unfortunately. But those were the findings in the USFR that we had. And then we also prepare, in addition, and I spoke a little bit about the proposed budget, but we actually prepare an annual comprehensive financial report. So while we're required by the state to do the annual financial report in October, this one classifies all of our financial transactions. It puts it into basic financial statement format that our annual financial report is not in. It's divided into 3 sections. So there's an introductory section which leads the reader through it so that they know what's included in the report. And then we'll have the whole financial statement presentations. There are many different ways that they present the financial information. And then there's a statistical section with additional financial information about the district. That part, I must say, is unaudited. It tracks trends over the past 10 years. Who have the major property taxpayers been? How have tax collections been? Because this is the report that's really used by people that would like to make an investment in Madison through purchasing our bonds. So this is sent to the rating agencies, the Federal Clearinghouse, so that is when our bonds get rated. This is the report that is looked at, and so it's a critical report. The auditors also audit this annual comprehensive financial report to make sure that everything is reported correctly, and I'm very happy and proud to say that we did receive an unmodified opinion, which means that we got a clean opinion. They do believe that everything is presented in a sound way within the reports. So we couldn't ask for anything better than that. You will see that there are some notes in there. We did have to restate some of our beginning positions due to some expenditures had been recorded in the wrong fund. So when they're put in the wrong fund, then they're classified in the wrong place in the financial statement. So they reverse the entries and post them where they are supposed to be. And that does create that restatement of your beginning balances. And so that has crept a little bit into our single audit, which is the next report that's required of the auditors. So after they finish auditing our annual comprehensive financial report, they do additional audits to make sure that we are spending our federal dollars according to the way that they were awarded and that they are being presented accurately. So in addition to being a financial audit to tell the federal government how we're doing, it also is on the grant dollars that we receive. So the restatement or the correction of correct funds, we did have some revenue that was posted in fiscal year 23 that really should have been in 22, which caused them to restate those finances, those financial statements from the prior year. We did end up in our single audit report with 3 exceptions. We do have 2 material weaknesses. Those are of concern, of course. We don't take this lightly, but it was due to the restatement. We had received a grant. It was around $1.8 million. That is a significant amount when you look at our total federal grants. So because of the relative amount to our total grants, it was recorded in the wrong fund number. It was recorded in E-rate, and it should have been recorded. It was an emergency connectivity fund program, should have been recorded in its own fund, and it wasn't. So just pulling that out and actually correcting that caused a material weakness. And then the same thing was, it was included in our schedule of federal awards in the wrong place. So you can see like one correction makes multiple findings. And then we did have one significant deficiency, and it was those electronic payment vendor payments, electronic payments to vendors running not through its own account, and that was a significant deficiency. So not as great. We have already written the corrective action plan for this. We've submitted it to the Department of Education, who has accepted it, and so I think that we are on a very good path now to move forward. And are there any questions? These do, by statute, have to be accepted by roll call vote.
Thank you, Ms. Garvey, for all your extra hard work on this audit. I know it took a little longer than usual. Any questions for Ms. Garvey on the audit?
I just see audits as an opportunity. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you.
Oh, I just see audits as an opportunity to learn, and accounting is complex, especially at a school district. And so I thank our auditors, and I know that all the corrective actions were taken promptly, and moving forward will not be an issue. So thank you for your hard work, and I'm just
Yeah.
this is what we do.
Yes, thank you. And I know you take the audits very seriously, so we appreciate everything you for that. Okay, I will take a motion to approve the fiscal year 23 audit report.
So moved.
This one is voice vote. Okay,
And it's roll call vote.
and it's roll call.
As she looks at me.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I have a motion from Ms. Thompson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Holcomb.
Right. President Gresham.
Aye.
Aye.
Member Causey.
Yes.
Member Spear.
Aye.
And Member Holcomb.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, 8.3, I believe Ms. Garvey will be up again, but do you want to? Okay, I will introduce Ms. Garvey for the, once again, the adoption of the budget for 24-25.
Thank you again. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Guerin, and Cabinet. The proposed budget was presented during the public hearing, and if there aren't any more questions, we're ready to vote.
Okay, any questions? I will take a motion on this as well.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Thompson, seconded by Ms. Causey. Is this also a voice vote, or are we doing electronic? Thank you. Oh, and there it is. And that also passes unanimously. And 8.4, our performance-based pay for our superintendent's contract. Do you want to address this at all, Dr. Guerin? Okay, we will address it. Well, do we have any comments on the performance-based pay? Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. I just want to take a moment to Dr. Guerin for presenting these very detailed report on her goals. We had a lot of changes this last year with a bunch of new hires on the administrative team across the schools, and we've just had an incredibly impressive year with great achievement, and looking forward to a lot more of that happening. So thank you for all you do, and deeply appreciate this thorough report that you provided.
Anyone else? Oh, Ms. Causey did.
I would just like to echo in reviewing the incredibly detailed report that not only outlines the work that has been accomplished, but the work moving forward. I'm really impressed and pleased with the progress that we've made and are making in the future, and believe as a result that Dr. Guerin has earned her performance pay. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to check with Ms. Spear real quick before I forget. Ms. Spear, do you have any comments?
No comments. I've shared my comments with Dr. Guerin in our one-on-ones, except to say that she has my complete support, and I'm very proud of the direction that she's taken the district and the efforts that she has made. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holcomb.
Yes, I want to echo the comments of all my other board members. Beyond just being a detailed presentation of the goals and how they were met, I believe we've all experienced the fact that Dr. Guerin, with the administrative team and executive team, the administrative team, our teachers, everyone in the district has I think benefited from this and created a culture from the top down and adopted throughout the organization. Besides the achievement, one of the things is the culture that continues in Madison. I think continues to improve. We can't have advancement without having the proper culture, and I think that is one of the major accomplishments of Dr. Guerin and the whole district.
Thank you. I will also repeat my other board members, and thank you for a great year, Dr. Guerin, another great year. And yes, and for your great collaborative leadership and decision making. So yes, we really appreciate it. And I will take any other comments. I'll take a motion to approve the performance-based pay.
So moved.
Second.
What, just if I may clarify the vote, we're voting to give the full amount of the performance-based pay under Dr. Guerin's contract,
According
correct?
to the contract.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. And let's see, we had a motion from Ms. Thompson and seconded by Ms. Spears. Please vote.
I don't believe that I made a second, so I wanted to make sure that the record is clarified on that.
Yes, Ms. Causey was second.
Thank you. I thought you said Ms. Spear. My apologies.
No problem. And that passes unanimously. And speaking of contracts, we'll go on to 8.5, renewing the superintendent's contract for the 2024 to 2027 term. Yes. So I think, do we have any other discussion before we approve the renewal?
I just want to add that I've reviewed the contract. I'm happy with it. It is. I'm pleased to continue. The contract basically is a continuation of Dr. Guerin's service to the district. I'm thrilled that we've put this together. We want to keep her at Madison, and so I'm very positive about this contract.
Thank you. Anyone else? And I think we're ready for him. I will also just agree that, yes, we're glad that Dr. Guerin is staying and we have renewed for we will be renewing hopefully for another 3 years. So I'll take a motion to approve the new contract.
Move to approve the contract as presented.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Holcomb. Please vote. And that has been approved. Congratulations, Dr. Guerin.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we will move on to 9.1, future meetings.
Well, after a marathon of an afternoon, we get several weeks off, so I hope everyone enjoys them. And we will be back on July 23rd we will hear from Ms. Garvey on the Madison Center for the Arts. And we will potentially have a recalculation for prior year's state aid related to a lawsuit, but we'll stay tuned because there is some work happening down at the legislature on that, and we might even have a budget by then. So we'll see. Ms. Garvey will keep us posted. We do have our Welcome Back event on August 1st, and don't forget the first day of school. We have a board meeting and the first day of school on August 6th.
Any questions on our calendar? Any concerns? Okay, seeing none, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Holcomb, seconded by Ms. Causey. Please vote. And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.